It's absurd to really think about how many different times in my career I could name 5 exact times where if I didn't win this all-in, if I didn't win this tournament, I would have went broke in poker, would have quit, and would have been back in school or working for the family business. It's just crazy to constantly realize, yep, I'm living in Mexico, I've had no real job, I dropped out of college, and I've been able to support myself and pay for all my fun habits.
Shaun Deeb was the original high-volume online grinder, one of a few early internet MTT players who inspired a generation of multi-tabling, strategy-obsessed professionals who amassed small fortunes from behind their computer screens. Before Black Friday, Deeb could grind from home, but when the US Department of Justice cut Americans off from online poker, he moved to Mexico to keep playing. Now Deeb lives in Playa del Carmen, along with a growing group of American poker pros, and we flew there during the biggest weekend in online poker, the WCOOP Main Event on PokerStars.
Yeah, this is kind of the make or break time of the year for us. It's the biggest tournament online of the year by far, and 5K buy-in should have a couple thousand people, a couple $1 million the first, all done in 2 days, all done on your computer. It's insane. I actually think I'm more excited now because back then, I wasn't properly rolled for the 5Ks. I was scared. I was I didn't think I was really good enough at the high buy-in levels at that point. And now I feel like I'm one of the people show up on the table in the WCOOP Main. They're like, oh man, Shaun Deeb's at my table. Yeah, when I was 16, one of my friends was having a poker tournament and they invited me over just playing on a pool table. And I was like, wow, this is a lot of fun. I was I've played card games since a young age with my grandmother and family members. And so it was an easy adjustment for me to play that. And then I said, okay, I want to start doing this, and every Tuesday night was when that happened to be when they had the World Series poker coverage. So every Tuesday night we would run tournaments at my house. Seems insane looking back on it that it was just a little game like that now I've become a really well-known poker pro, playing the biggest buy-ins, being in the World Series, getting so much TV coverage. It's just amazing the progression over that many years that happened. Our generation, similar to the old school road gamblers generation, is now we're on the road day in, day out. We're not seeing our families. We have no home base. We're forced to live out of a suitcase and kind of struggle at times. It's slightly ironic that, I hope I'm using it correctly, I never do, that American dream, us Americans, are now living in Mexico because that's where we have to work, and a lot of Americans think that's always the Mexicans coming to take their job. Yeah, so when I turned 18, I went to college like most kids do, and I went to Bentley University, and it was a really well-known school for finance, and I was going to be a stockbroker was my whole plan. And once I got there, the first week of school, we played some home game. I met a few kids on my floor. We all liked poker, and the day I turned 18, I deposited online. I wasn't winning money back then, but I was still playing and hooked. It's crazy to look back then and see all the stuff we were talking about. Me and my one good friend, his name is Foster, we always used to talk about coming out for the World Series. And now look at it, I'm at every World Series event. It's dictating my whole life. I'm everything I do, everything I travel, every plan I make is related to poker. It's truly consumed my whole life.
Me and Shaun both started playing poker maybe, almost 10 years ago online, or 8 years ago. So we've been around since the beginning. We started at the same level, small tournaments. We worked our way up to the bigger games. Now we both play in some fairly big games in Vegas, and remembering playing with them in $3, $10 tournaments just adds to our friendship that we've kind of taken a similar path to get where we're at today.
I have a lot of gamble for sure in life. Obviously moving to Mexico was quite the gamble. It works somehow. I still look back on it and try to figure out every day, and it makes no sense to me how I got to where I am.
The first time I met Shaun Deeb, we were both playing at the same poker table online, and we got to talking from there. And me, him, and 2 other poker players roomed together on the same poker trip in New York at a casino when I was 18.
I owe my early knowledge to the whole Turning Stone crew. Turning Stone's a casino in upstate New York near Syracuse that was 18 plus, and growing up in upstate New York, it was a 2-hour drive for me. And I would go when they had a tourney series. I met a bunch of guys in the 2+2 community, and when I first met them, I'd never even played a tournament online. They all were mostly tournament players, and it sounded really cool, and I knew I liked tournaments when I played like home games, whatever the tournaments I ran. So I started playing tournaments online and kind of mimicking and getting to know these guys.
Shaun was definitely the first person to take low stakes volume grinding seriously. He even has a very old 180-man grinder guide on 2+2 that you can find for back in the day that you could probably apply today to all the turbo tournaments they still run. So yeah, Shaun's put forth a lot to the micro stakes community, and you could probably still get a lot out of it.
I've always been grinding just like you see now. I used to have Dells, I've switched to Max now, and it's just me sitting on a laptop. I'm the basic grinder. I don't need my mouse, my dual monitors, this, that, like headphones, music. I just play poker.
I would say so. I would say that he's definitely moved the game a little himself because he's such a grinder. Like a lot of legends like Giboro and stuff, they 4 tables and they win 2 tourneys. But Deeb played 50,000 games. I would say he's definitely he was definitely one of the original grinders or whatever.
Yeah, I don't even really remember. I just started from day one of online poker playing 4-8 tables, then 12 tables on Party Poker, the Mag. When I got the stars, I just kept clicking register, and then all of a sudden I'd have 20, 30 tables going at once. I'd be just clicking furiously.
I think people look up to Shaun because he's one of the guys who play really small tournaments, like $3 tournaments. He'd play tons of hours, and he just put in so much work because he loved the game. And anyone that's starting out in poker loves the game a lot, and that's what it takes to become successful, is just, your passion.
Luckily, my family was all for me leaving college for poker. That was strictly because my grandmother plays all the time. A lot of you guys watching have seen her in the main event.
Shuffle up and deal.
You heard the lady, shuffle up and deal.
She's an amazing person. She's the reason I got into cards at a young age, and she was the reason why they said, it's okay. And she gave me the okay. They all know I'm a smart guy. If it didn't work, I'd figure out something else to do with my life. The greatest probably gift of my career and my success is being able to put my grandmother in the main event every year. When I did it 2 years ago, we were back home in New York a couple months later, and she actually told me that was her favorite memory of her life. For her to be 90 years older than me as a grandchild, to be able to give her her favorite memory is just so strong.
I mean, every poker player wants to become extremely successful when they first start, and I think Deeb has kind of pushed other poker players to become more and more successful. And everyone wants to play with Doyle. Who doesn't want to go and meet Doyle? And so yeah, I mean, him becoming as big as he is now in the poker world is definitely motivating for people to keep grinding.
As your career goes on, if you don't devalue money, you're never going to be able to play the highest stakes well, or even medium stakes. I mean, you got to forget that the buy-in is $5,000, $10K, $50K, whatever it is. You have to ignore that. You have to play as correctly as you know, equity-wise. It's the one thing that I think non-poker players will never get is the people who have a 9-to-5 job and they're like, how do you not know how much money you have? Every time I go through a border for customs, they're like, how much you carry? I was like, I don't know, somewhere between 15, 30,000. Like, you don't know? I'm like, no. They're like, I know exactly to the dollar what I have every time. I'm like, I'm sorry, that's not what I do. I spend money, I get money. I'm not aware of how much I have on me at any point in my life.
I think Shaun's successful because of his personality. He doesn't get upset, so he doesn't tilt. He's generally more happy than a lot of poker players, and that goes a long way during bad months when you get frustrated and sometimes you feel like everything's going wrong, but staying positive can go a long way.
My most memorable experience right now in my life have been more or less just hanging out with different poker players. So many different stories I heard, like playing cash games with Doyle, some of the old school guys. I just grew up from a family that always told stories, always told about the past, always just kind of recounted and just went back and forth with stuff like that. And I noticed that about poker is one of the really, really cool things about the community.
I think you'll see a lot more success from Shaun in the future compared to online. It's just a matter of time and a matter of hands played, and I think he's slowly learning his discipline and his patience live, so I think eventually he'll learn to quit getting it in really light on a massive bluff just to be able to show a 4 and learn to just make the best decision possible each hand.
You know, life is good. Look at this. We're here partying, Playa del Carmen, friends around, girls around. It's muy bueno.